It's driven by like nationalism. In the sense, it's only international cricket. It's country v country that plays, and it's always been the case. That's been the history of the sport.
Yeah, I'm listening to Akshay speak. I can already foresee a clash of generations in this discussion because I for one just absolutely love Test cricket and would
Yeah.
want that to be preserved. ICC should take it up on themselves to do a good documentary of every WTC cycle.
Maybe Jay Shah can take a page out of Vince McMahon and WWE in terms of just how they've archived that content and kept it there. Why the hell does PCCI not have a YouTube channel, right?
RCB CSK test match will probably bring in more folks and viewers and money than India Pakistan. Just thinking out loud.
It's a live sport. It's not an e-sport. Even e-sport has audience and more audience than probably a Test cricket game these days. Afghanistan shouldn't be a Test playing nation because they don't have a women's team, which is one of the prerequisites for you to attain Test status. Half of the World Cup is scheduled in Sri Lanka in the month of October, which is the wettest month of the country. मतलब this is the amount of care people have for women's cricket. Again, अभी इस माहौल में मैं ये बोलूँगा तो गाली खाऊंगा, but I think for Test cricket to survive in the long run, you need India-Pakistan tests.
Right, time for another episode of Bat Ball and Bear Talk. And today we're going to be talking about Test cricket and the future of Tests with, of course, two gentlemen to pick it all in terms of what's the way forward, what are some of the low-hanging fruits, and what are some of the innovative thoughts that we have just as cricket fans to probably preserve the longest format of the game. Akshay and Somesh with me. Akshay, I'll start with you. How are you, man? Oh, well.
Yeah, doing all right. Unfortunately, the Women's World Cup has seen a lot of rain and there's not been a lot of cricket otherwise. So, yeah, doing all right. Hopefully, we'll see a lot more games. Importantly, it's also the starting of the Indian Test summer, so to say. The West Indies Tests were a bit of a bland starter. Let's hope, going forward, we'll see a lot more interesting games. The Ashes is coming up. So, yeah, what better than to talk about Test cricket right now?
Indeed. Somesh, how's it going with you? World Cup viewing?
Yeah, as long as the game is live, because apparently half of the World Cup is scheduled in Sri Lanka in the month of October, which is on record the wettest month of the country. This is the amount of care people have for women's cricket that they end up scheduling Women's World Cup in peak of the rainy season. So what can I say if the authorities themselves are, this is the level of planning and thought process they've given to the tournament.
Okay, daggers are out already from Somesh, and we've not even got into the conversation of Test cricket. But with that energy, we'll move forward. And boys, look, straight up in terms of just segmenting this particular video for the viewers, we obviously I said at the top of the show, and I'll start with the first question. Akshay, maybe you can go first. In terms of what do you think are the plaguing issues in Test cricket right now? I mean, there are evident ones, the bare obvious ones. You can probably stress upon it, or even the other ones that you probably see that other people don't. So Akshay first, and then Som can back it up.
Yeah, the bunch of, big picture problems. Let's probably start off with the format itself. Unfortunately, with social media, with dwindling attention spans, a 5 day long test match is not something that would, pique the interest of the average viewer. And especially if the focus for ICC, which is what they've, time and time again said, is to expand to newer geographies, then Test cricket itself might not be the greatest of products because cricket as a sport itself is a fairly complicated, structure. There's so many numbers, there's so many different things for new viewers to sort of understand and wrap their head around. And then you add to that, okay, there's a lunch break, there's a tea break. What on earth's happening, and all of these things. So while the purists try and gatekeep the sport and say, this is how the game began, this is how the sport began. So we need to hold on to this format. We need to understand that just the length of it, that is a very big issue, and which is why we've seen, just look at the kind of audience we saw for the India-West Indies test, both in Ahmedabad and Delhi, which are supposed to be, marquee centers, so to say, for India. There were dwindling audiences, there were hardly any, to be honest. And just it paints a very bleak picture right now. And when you then take this format to countries in the Caribbean, in the US and all, it's even more poorer. So which means how will you then carry the format with each of the 10 countries or 12 countries that play right now? So that is definitely a very big issue they'll have to focus on.
Yeah, it's well documented in at least the recent times. Various people on various podcasts talking about how to preserve Test cricket. A lot of people have suggested various things in terms of two-tier system and all of that. But Som, in your eyes right now, I'm guessing that's your favorite format. Let's make no mistake about it. Three of us could probably say that. We still have that little romantic in us. But what is the main issues you feel just watching it from a neutral as well?
Yeah, I'm listening to Akshay speak. I can already foresee a clash of generations in this discussion because I for one just absolutely love Test cricket and would
Yeah.
want that to be preserved for as long as possible. But I completely understand that as much as we want, you cannot force yourselves to the next generation. They need to buy into the product, and that is
Mm.
something that I mean we the what do you call this? Zimmedari. I mean, the responsibility of this generation is to actually,
A
uh,
literal loss of
you know,
words for Somesh.
yeah, put Test cricket at a footing where you actually give your best product to the next generation for them to then decide that whether it's worth their time or not. But till then, yeah, coming back to the problems. So first and foremost, the biggest problem that I foresee is even though we have the WTC and the trophy has made Test cricket a little more relevant than what it was. Still, there is a lot of disparity in the number of games being played between the teams, and which is not ideal for any competition. So, just to give you an example, if you look at the last two WTC cycles, of course, England have played the most tests, which is 44. Bangladesh have played the fewest, which is 24. So that's a big drop. And not just that. So from England to Australia, England have played 44, Australia have played 38. The drop is 13%, 13.5%. So even between the one and two, it's a significant drop. Then it's somewhat okay between Australia and India. Both Australia played 38, India has played 37. That is also because Australia have played a WTC final, which India didn't. But then it's a substantial drop once again because after India, it's Pakistan who played 28. So from your number three to number four, there is again a 25% drop. And then your five, six, seven, eight, I have played around equal number of tests. So Pakistan and Bangladesh, the fourth and last, they have played 24 to 28 tests. So you can see that there is a bunch of team outside the big three who are not playing a lot of tests. So if you're not playing enough, I feel you're not going to improve. As simple as that. And when we talk about improvement, if you look at the win percentages, that is also something that marks towards the lack of competition by the lower teams. Because again, if you look at win percentages, Australia is right up there, 63%. Then South Africa, India, both above 50%. New Zealand, England, there and thereabouts, 47%. And then again, you see a drop. New Zealand is 40%, but New Zealand won 3-0 in India. So you can't take, I mean, you cannot say that they've not won, because they've basically done something which is the most significant achievement of this cycle. And then you have Sri Lanka at 40%. But I'll come back to that. But then you go down, Pakistan 32%, and Bangladesh is just 20% tests won in the last two cycles. So the quality or the contest provided is quite low. That is the second big challenge.
And just to tie into what you were saying, Somesh, like the sad reality is hosting test matches is a very expensive affair. There's a very big reason why it's the big three who are playing as many test matches as they are, because it costs nearly $500,000 and north of it to host one single test match. So when you want to host a three-match test series, that's already $1.5–2 million you're talking about. And if you're going to host sides that aren't exactly, eye candy, the likes of England, India, and Australia, then you're not going to get enough money from your broadcasters. You're not going to get enough sponsors coming in. So if you're not going to make money, and if it's a loss-making proposition, it is a vicious loop wherein the likes of Bangladesh, Pakistan, as much as, for instance, they might want to play test cricket and improve themselves, if they're going to lose money on it, there's very little incentive for boards to organize more test matches. And if they organize fewer test matches, that means the players don't get enough match time, enough experience to improve their skill or hone their skill. So unfortunately, and that's skew, towards the big three, that's played a very big role. And that's something I want to talk about as well, because gatekeeping has been arguably the biggest issue when it comes to test cricket. The amount of gatekeeping that's happened, I don't think I've come across any other sport that sees the level of gatekeeping that we've seen with this particular format. And sure, one might argue that, we are, the biggest cricketing nation. We've got the audience, so of course we will, call the shots. But there is a certain way, if you really want to preserve the sport, if you really want to expand the sport, then you've got to sort of, play by the books and not really just go about the way you like it, just to make more money and sort of fill in your coffers. So that's definitely, another issue that not just we are talking about, that's also been brought to light time and time again, but there seems to be no discernible solution coming in.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even when Somesh was giving those numbers out, I mean, the Gulf class is evident, the big three, and all of that. But so it's now just well understood, right? The fact that without India, Australia, and England, how could you kind of still keep Test cricket alive? Because that is one of the major issues, I'm guessing.
Yeah, see, actually, there is no clear future growth plan outside the big three. If anything, the plan is to double down on big three and have them play more tests. We all know we can actually guess how it's going to end up, right? I mean, it's gonna you cannot have a three team product and make it sustainable for the future generations to follow, because anyway T20 is digging into what the players want in the future. So if there is if there is nothing substantial to achieve at a world stage, uh, it's going to be very hard for them to attract audiences in the future. Of course, you'll always get people watching the Ashes, watching India versus Australia, watching India versus England. But then again, probably you'll have to accept that it's going to be a three-team product if you really don't do anything about it, and it's already too late, to be very honest.
Hmm. So essentially, I mean, the challenges are there. You guys let us know in the comments as well, because money is a biggest point of view. I'm guessing what Akshay was talking about in terms of hosting Test cricket and stuff. But Akshay, I'll throw it back to you. If we just take this chat forward, what are some of those easy fixes? What are some of the things, if you were sitting in the ICC headquarters, that you would identify as low hanging fruits and be like, at least let's just plug in these holes right here, right now?
The thing is, unfortunately, there are no easy fixes per se, but there are definitely, steps
Hmm.
that we can take. One, to begin with, when we talk about team sports, one sort of common theme that we see emerge is, the existence of some sort of a club structure. There is private money coming in. Like, look at football, look at even the shorter formats of cricket. It's the influx of private money that's actually helped, grow these sports. And that's something that Test cricket has lacked. We have domestic structures in each of these various nations, but there's nothing else happening. County cricket was that structure. If you remember the 80s and the 90s, where you saw private money coming in, you saw a lot of overseas players wanting to play county cricket because that was sort of the IPL of that era. Sheffield Shield also to some extent. Maybe trying to sort of, plug in those holes, bring in more overseas players to your domestic leagues and try and sort of bring in some private money over there. That would probably be, I don't know if you can call it an easy fix, but it's some sort of a sustainable solution when these players who are coming in, from the likes of West Indies, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan even, it becomes a gateway for them to first enter the Indian market, for them to hone their skills, rub shoulders with some of the best in the business, at least when it comes to the Indian domestic circuit, which is arguably the best structure in the world. So, and not just that, county cricket, Sheffield Shield. So things like these, I feel if you can sort of increase the frequency of, players sort of going abroad and playing more of county cricket or domestic cricket elsewhere, first class cricket elsewhere, I think that would be something that would help the sport for sure.
That is a good idea. I think it'll be a breath of fresh air given the influx of T20 cricket and given how every girl, boy, teenager right now picking up a bat or ball wants to play T20 cricket. So maybe that could just be a mental shift. So, in terms of your perspective, you spoke about the WTC, that tournament having little flaws and chinks. Would you start there in terms of easy fixes? Because it has kind of given a facelift to Test cricket, even though sometimes people call it applying lipstick on a pig.
No, absolutely. I think when you talk about easy fixes, it has to start at WTC. And I, for one, feel that every series should be of minimum three tests. That should be the bare minimum criteria. And even if what Akshay said, which is quite true, you can, I mean, regarding the cost of hosting test matches, I mean, you should be open to be a little experimental with it. Let's say if New Zealand are going to play Bangladesh, for example, I mean, they should be open to playing a test series in Dubai, where ICC can take up responsibilities of hosting the test series. Because see, there's a team subcontinent where you can play all year round except probably a couple of months of monsoon, but that is not the case with a lot of European countries and Australia, New Zealand, where you have a very fixed limited window. So outside that, it's cricket outside that window that needs to be figured out, or how they can play more red ball cricket. So that is one thing that I really want to see: three test series and tests happening at neutral venues. I also strongly feel that just like teams earn test status, venues should also earn test status based on the audience they provide. I don't know what is the better way to put it, but कि भाई इनका मन है कि अब इस स्टेट को हमको मैच देना है तो उनको दे दो, and over the course of 5 days you don't even have 10,000 people attending a test. So I think there should be some qualification marker of attendance for test venues to be decided, because ultimately see, it's a live sport. It's not an e-sport. Even e-sport has audience, and more audience than probably a test cricket game these days. So that is again an easy fix, which in my opinion should happen. Uh, just to elaborate on what Akshay said, I actually have a solution to that, and I love the idea where you having you planning to give exposure to players. I really feel that we talk about Champions League T20. Why not bring it in Test cricket? I mean, you can have Ranji Trophy winners playing Sheffield Shield winners, playing county championship winners, and so on and so forth. Not just this. I mean, you'll have a winner from the New Zealand domestic tournament, South Africa, West Indies, and have a competition between them. Schedule it for a couple of months. You don't really always have to have your A players playing them, but whoever can make the cut, at least the top 15 players of that region would be allowed to play, and there will be something to look forward to. I mean, just imagine Vidarbha playing South Australia. It's going to be so much fun to watch. So I mean, again, it's an easy fix.
No, it's a good point. Both of y'all, I think, have blended your points together. I think even when you look back in the archives, there were one or two of these games happening in the past where I think you saw the county winners play the Sheffield Shield winners, and then you'd see people like, I think even Akshay, I don't know, Karnataka in the late 90s went to tour Australia and they played New South Wales there and stuff like that. But obviously, it's not like an annual thing. But it does have a good ring to it as well. Champions League Test cricket. I mean, let's see if it kind of comes through with it. Let's take it a step forward right now and talk about just the next thing that we want to talk about in terms of this video, and what are some of the long-term solutions. I mean, the WTC is now going to be having its fourth cycle very shortly. People have liked it, loathed it. Akshay, again, first ball with you here.
With the WTC, I mean, I do agree with Somesh. It's a very flawed structure. It definitely has helped, add some relevance to the format, but I still, sort of see a lot of challenges with it and how they sort of maintain the structure, which is why there's been so many conversations around having a two-tier structure, and do we sort of have the best of the best playing each other again and again, which sort of once again just defeats the purpose. And that is my biggest problem when it comes to something like cricket. It is extremely I don't know if I should put it this way, but let's just go ahead. It's driven by like nationalism, in the sense it's only international cricket. It's country v country that plays, and it's always been the case. That's been the history of the sport, which is meant that if you don't have structures, if you don't have sort of enough countries or leagues, domestic structures, then those countries won't be able to do in the long term. And that has definitely played a role over here, which is why we just keep talking about the big three, which is India, England, and Australia. And to add to that now, I've been very strongly of the opinion that ODI itself as a format has been sort of losing relevance very quickly in the last 3-4 years, especially since the inception of the WTC. We've always wondered, why are we playing these random bilaterals? Like, apart from the World Cup, what is the meaning of this format? It's just there. It's sort of not being able to adjust to the increasing evolution to T20 cricket. It does not even have the charm of Test cricket. So what do we do with it? And that's where I feel one solution that they can really focus on is potentially considering or bringing in red ball to one days. This happened in the late 90s. If you guys remember, there were these odd ODIs that were played with the red ball, but for very different purposes. It was no from a visibility point of view when these games happened in Toronto or something, because the timings were such that they had no option but to play in the morning, which meant visibility of the white ball was low. So they switched to red ball in limited overs as well. And I think bringing something like that back would help even the players develop, that skill, something we were talking about earlier, that players themselves they're not enough skilled red ball bowlers or batters. And you need to bring that as well. Now, how do you bring that? You can't just expect the domestic structures to take care of itself. Maybe one way of looking at this is probably using the other formats to help improve their skills, their test playing skills, and then take it from there. So that's definitely something I'm very interested in. I think it's a solution well within the realm of possibilities.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because every time I think about ODIs being played in whites and a red ball, I instantly think about Sachin Dravid and that partnership against New Zealand, Hyderabad 1999. And back in those days, like you said, visibility and early crowds, morning starts. So it contributed to a lot of factors. So in terms of long-term solutions, many people around the world are proposing shorten the fact that it's 5 days to 4 days. Do you think that's a long-term solution, if at all? Would you go down that path?
I don't think so. I mean, because see, 5 days, you'd start seeing more draws to begin with. Of course, after a while, everything will sort of come back and be normal again, and people will start focusing on results, getting results in 4 days. But at this point of time, making it a 4 day affair out and out doesn't really I mean, it's not really solving anything if you ask me, because you're just bringing in making more room to play more white ball cricket. That's it. But what is happening right now is, if you look at how the ICC system is divided, and I just, and thanks Bastap for helping me out in finding all of this. So if you look at the 12 members who play Test cricket right now, they get around 89% of the pie, the so-called ICC funding pot, which is at least around $500 million, and so you have an incentive to still be a Test playing nation. And the problem with the system is there are no definitive measures through which you can lose your test status. So, I mean, if you look at ICC rule books, Afghanistan shouldn't be a test playing nation because they don't have a women's team, which is one of the prerequisites for you to attain test status. But since the review happens every 5 years, it's a long time. You don't even know when the review for Afghanistan is going to come up. And similarly, the other rules are regarding financial irregularities, not having a domestic structure, having political influence. So, so these things are so subjective that there is no jeopardy right now for teams to face. So, if a team like West Indies, they are not performing in tests, it's not really affecting them. So, if there is some sort of jeopardy that they can actually lose their test status, maybe they'll do something very honest about it. Because then it's not about the players, then it's about the officials who are running the system. They would want the team to do better because it's about the money that is going to come to them. And right now there is no there is that lack of jeopardy at a governance level. Second thing is, even at a performance level, I feel, again, I'll go back to the numbers now. uh, you have six teams who have won 40% of their games in the last two cycles, and then there are the other three teams who have not even won 40%. Now this is one picture. If I look at the teams with the number of wins against the top three teams being India, Australia, and South Africa, there is a clear difference where you have the Sena nations and India who have at least won 30% of their games against these teams, and there is a significant drop after that. Sri Lanka have won just 12% of their games against these teams. Pakistan has won 11%. So you can clearly see that there are five teams who are doing really well, but everyone else is struggling. And even test matches featuring these sides have gone on at a varied length. So if you look at the tests that feature only the Sena nations and India, they go on for roughly around 215 overs, whereas there is a drop of at least 30 to 35 overs if the test features one of the other teams. So, and it's more than a session. So again, this points to the fact that there is a drop in quality, which I feel that the solution that has been going around of having two-tier system is something that I really support, because that is going to bring jeopardy where you can have a team from the lower division being promoted to the upper division, and team that finishes last or fifth in the upper division can no is relegated to the lower division. Second thing, I believe that what is stopping you from having actually a third division where any country in the world who wants to play Test cricket, who have enough players from subcontinent diaspora who are there, willing to spend on Test cricket and actually play red ball cricket, might as well have them as well and have a third division. So you can have your top division of five teams, your second division of, let's say, five more teams of six teams, and then they have a third division of as many teams as who applies and who apply for playing Test cricket, and as long as they fulfill the bare minimum criteria. Lastly, I have this as a long term solution, which, because I see it as a practical step. Imagine a scenario: Ranji Trophy is just starting. West Indies team was here. What is stopping everyone from having a system where these teams can actually participate in the domestic competition of the teams that are in the higher division? So if the structure that we are promising, or proposing, we're not promising anything, we can't promise anything. So the structure that we are proposing let's say if West Indies are in a Division 2, there should be some arrangement where this team can actually play in the domestic competition of the teams in the first division. And I'm not saying a domestic team from West Indies, the national team. West Indies national team should be able to play Ranji Trophy. Pakistan national team should be able to play Sheffield Shield. Again, you won't be able to guarantee that your best 15 players will play every time because they'll have other commitments, but at least they will be there.
But Zomesh, one thing to understand with the two-tier structure itself, the biggest concern is the fact that if something like this is brought into action, then the lower tier will never get to, I mean, the teams in the lower rung will never get to play teams in the higher rung, which means they'll have to play within themselves. And like you mentioned earlier, New Zealand versus Bangladesh or whatever, Sri Lanka versus Bangladesh, there's very little incentive for such test matches to happen, which means they'll probably then stop playing test matches altogether because it's just, a cost, a loss bearing proposition for them. And then do you think that would once again lead to the same worry that what if it just leads to the top three, top four nations then playing test cricket and no one else there to play them?
Yeah, but this is not going to be a constant scenario. You can always perform well and get promoted to the upper division. There will be promotion relegation will happen every cycle. So in the long run, at least you'll have more than three teams participating, is what I feel, which is currently the direction we are headed right now.
But like my question there is, for instance, assuming it's a five, like two tiers of five teams, that's the structure. The one plays seventh. I'm assuming it's going to be one team that gets promoted, one team that gets relegated. So,
Yeah.
for instance, let's say a Bangladesh or a Sri Lanka is consistently coming at number seven. So they cannot be
Hmm.
promoted, but at the same time they're losing money. So at what point in time will they then be like, you know what, we've spent enough money on this, we've spent enough money on our players, this is not working out. Let's just shut shop and stop playing this altogether.
So this is where if you merge it with a systematic improvement of those sides, which can happen if they are allowed to tour other teams and at least play their first class teams, you're still giving them ample opportunity of skill development. So it has to be a combination of a lot of things. There has to be a defined pathways on how they can improve.
Sticking with innovative ideas, and I think we've kind of used our creative side for this video. More to come in terms of wacky ideas. You think, Akshay, in Test cricket, what could you possibly think of which can give this amazing format a facelift, at least to this new generation of cricket fans?
I, for one, think like international cricket should be limited to World Cups, which should be at best a 4 year thing, be it ODIs or T20s. For the other 3 years, like let me paint a picture. 4 year cycle, at the end of which would be the World Cup, ODI and the T20I World Cup. For the first 3 years, no ODIs. Firstly, it'll be tests, it'll be T20s. We'll have the longest format and the shortest format. I would divide the year into the two formats. So first 6 months, for instance, will be the T20 calendar, and the next 6 months would be the Test calendar. Even here, we'll map out. We'll have seven different geographies. So Australia and New Zealand is one. South Africa could be another. Middle East could be another. South Asia could be another. There's England. There's the Caribbean. So you've got these different geographies. So just like how we see rotation of venues in India, you can have these geographies mapped out to each of these formats so that at least once in the cycle they get to host both Tests and T20 cricket. Now, next up, what's going to happen? I'm not talking about international cricket. Like in these 6 months, we'll have T20 leagues going on simultaneously in each of these different geographies or whatever, like Australia, New Zealand, there's India, there's IPL, BPL, there's SA20, all of these leagues happening around the same time, basically similar to how European football works. Now, it could be a 3 month, 4 month long tournament, and then you can have a 2 week, 3 week break, at the end of which you can have some sort of a Champions League style tournament. The winner of each of these teams will come and play, and whoever is the winner, they'll be crowned champions or whatever. The reason why I want this to happen in parallel is we need to stop the overlap of talent that we're seeing. We cannot have a Josh Butler or an Andre Russell playing in four different leagues for four different sides under the same ownership. Bringing to my second point, we also need to stop an overlap of ownership. If one team owns, if there is a group that owns a team, that's it. You cannot own any other side. Simple as that. So there's no conflict of interest, nothing like that. It might have a lot of short term pain because people might argue there isn't enough of a talent pool and whatnot. But I feel in the long term, this will help build a lot more players in their respective countries. You can add, that one associate player rule and things like that, just to make it a lot more inclusive and have people from these non-test playing nations also coming in. So that's the T20 calendar. Now, replicate the same for Test cricket. So basically, like if I have to paint a picture, we'll have 6, 7 leagues going on, both in the Test format and the T20 format. So it's the same owners. RCB plays the T20 league in the first 6 months. They play the Test league in the next 6 months, like to sort of give you an idea. And in a similar way, wherein for the first 3, 4 months, the format of it, of course, has to be fleshed out. This is just me thinking out loud. But yeah, there'll be some sort of a tournament of sorts, wherein the winner of the tournament then gets to play other teams and then they'll be crowned champions. And then for the World Cup, everyone has to go through the qualifier route. There are no automatic qualifications barring maybe the host. Everyone has to play a qualifier in so let's say 2026 is the World Cup year. It starts off with a qualifier. Everyone plays the qualifier. That way they get to play the format and understand, who they want, because that could be a concern ki, bhai, we've not played the format for 4 years now. All of a sudden, you just want us to play the World Cup. That's not going to work out. Have a qualifier. It'll give game time to the talents who need. It'll also be a good way for each of these teams to sort of test themselves and enter the World Cup. And it'll be some sort of a level playing field. So, broadly speaking, this is the structure I have in mind. Of course, we need to flesh out the nitty gritties even more.
It's a fair blueprint because obviously what you're trying to do in the T20 and replicate that exactly for test. And maybe you've been saying this for the longest time because I've done multiple M&Ls with you and you've been pulling your head out for franchise test cricket. And it is a wonderful thought. Imagine RCB and CSK playing a test match and everyone would love that. Maybe it would add a little
Even
sprinklage
more
of
than
it.
India
The,
Pakistan, too. Just alluding to Somesh's point, RCB CSK test match will probably bring in more folks and viewers and money than India Pakistan. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, see, but my concern there is then cricket itself will become a India product, which is okay. Maybe that's where we are headed, and we as Indians can actually say ki it's okay because it's not going to concern us. But yeah, that is the direction I actually see cricket heading, especially with the downslide of Pakistan cricket, because these are the two countries that have historically, or not historically, but directionally, these are the two countries who are still holding Test cricket because I mean, Australia have other options. England have a lot more options. So India, तो अभी तो मतलब there is cricket and there is a big daylight, evening light, moonlight, and then there is any other sport.
And here, Somesh, in fact, that was something I was consciously thinking of. How can we move cricket away from India? Like, it cannot be India centric. Don't you think if these leagues happen in parallel, which means the Indian players will naturally play the Indian league, maybe a few who don't get picked will try and sort of, test themselves in one of these overseas leagues, but that would force those overseas leagues to sort of go dig deep and find local players because the Indian leagues happen simultaneously.
Yeah, but see, this is where all the gatekeeping and the red taping comes into picture, right? Even right now, I don't know about you, but here in my geography, I'm struggling to even watch Ranji Trophy, which should not be the case. I mean, at this in this day and age, you should be able to watch every single ball of every single Ranji Trophy game in every single part of the world.
Agreed.
So we are talking about an environment which is moving at least 2 decades behind where the world is. One thing I really am positive about, and it should happen not just in Test cricket. I feel it should happen in IPL as well. I am big on All-Star games, guys. So let's say if South Africa have won the WTC final, they won it in 2025. The next final is in 2027. So you have the 2026 empty. That window is empty. I mean, we should be having a window where South Africa gets to play a World 11 for a one-off test or a three test series. And you don't always have to have a Bumrah or a Cummins available for that. Even if they're not there, I'm pretty sure more people are going to watch that test and then probably what India playing West Indies. See, the third option, I'm surprised that I have to put it as left field because for me it's very obvious. But the way cricket has worked historically, I still feel it's a very left field option. They have to have indoor stadiums, guys. You cannot stop for rain, bad light. You just can't. You need to have indoor stadiums so that you can get proper bang for the buck. And if it's rainy, you just shut it down and just keep playing. So at least whenever you collect teams and they are in the field playing, at least you should have action at that point of time.
Yeah, I
But
mean, a retractable roof for starters, Akshay. Maybe that's a good idea, right? For stadiums.
it's a good idea, but I'm sorry, like I was strongly in favor of that just like a couple of years ago. But with just the number of stadiums that are coming up, like it's just more money spent on infrastructure and there's no maintenance firstly. Like I'm going to just strictly talk about India. I know if it happens in Australia or England, it would be better planned, it would be better maintained, so it would there would be that longevity associated with it. I don't think, matlab, like India has already a gazillion stadiums. Now, if you want to bring in more such stadiums, I remember seeing this video somewhere also from an architectural point of view or just a design point of view. It's also going to be a lot more difficult because unlike say a tennis court or even a football arena to some extent, the coverage that needs to be brought in for a cricket stadium would be massive. And there's never been something as big like a cricket stadium is massive. So, and because it's circular in nature, the design of it, so there's no precedent. So, for cricket to be able to be the pioneers in something is just too much to expect. अगर
Yeah.
precedent होता जहाँ पे you could just do control C control V, you can still say अरे यार it's already there, just replicate that. That's also not going to be the case. So first there needs to be a feasibility study. There's a lot of technical or technological challenges as well involved in that, which is why like I don't think it'll happen. And also even if it happens, I don't think India should be the country doing that. It should happen probably in Australia, England, even Sri Lanka for that matter. Sri Lanka is a country that needs to see this because Sri Lanka is perennially in monsoon season, and given that they only have four stadiums, if I'm not wrong, or five in total. So maybe if they want, they can have this one stadium that has this and explore something like that. India, bus ho gaya, right? Like off the top of my head, I can think of at least five new stadiums that are coming up in the next 3 4 years. I don't want to see more stadiums.
Guys, I mean, just to kind of finish off here, but having content accessible in cricket. I mean, sometimes even England have done pretty well in the last 7 or 8 years, Akshay, where every county has a dedicated YouTube channel, and then they kind of put out that particular live broadcast from wherever they're doing it. Might be shittier cameras and broadcast networks, but at least they're doing it. So for India not to do that's bizarre. Maybe Jay Shah can take a page out of Vince McMahon and WWE in terms of just how they've archived that content and kept it there in one space. I mean, still till today, I honestly think, why the hell does BCCI not have a YouTube channel, right? Small things of that. If they know that India is such a big audience for cricket.
It's not just BCCI. If I am a Kiwi, I would fully expect my country to produce a very good documentary of their 3-0 series victory in India. I mean, it's a massive achievement. It's one of the biggest achievements in cricket. It's not an India problem per se. Of course, Australia and England, they are doing a slightly better job in producing good content, but they are still not there yet. I mean, if you look at where the world and other sports have progressed, I mean, cricket has not even started to scratch the surface. With India, you don't really need to produce the docu series and Drive to Survive kind of series to promote the sport itself. Because ultimately, see, it's very easy. See, BCCI and Indian cricket is always a soft target for a lot of different things, and sometimes even for the right reasons. I won't take that away. But this is where I mean they have to take responsibility. What is the responsibility of West Indies cricket?
For me, I still believe there is a massive audience here. With the other countries, now it's about creating a market, creating an audience because they've lost the legacy ones. So now you have to start from scratch. And all of that is a cost. So there'll always be the argument made that, you know what, the likes of New Zealand, West Indies, they don't make nearly as much money as, say, an India does. So that's why I think the question arises, you have the money, you have the resources, you have the audience. So what's stopping you from doing all of this? Because it's not even like a major cost center. You can do it for practically next to nothing and still make a
Okay.
lot out of it.
Even if India does it, how is it gonna help New Zealand or West Indies?
It isn't. I'm just talking about India doing it for Indian viewers from just a sanctity perspective. Ki why this is bare minimum. This is the basics. Like it might not help Test cricket at large. This for Indian viewers improve their experience also, right?
Guys, it's been a fascinating chat, and you guys can also let us know in the comments if you guys are listening on various other platforms. Chip in with your thoughts and tell us what you guys see Test cricket be in the next 5 10 years. Will it exist? Won't it? I think it should. But you've heard us on cricket.com. Subscribe and like this particular video. Until the next time for a Bat Ball Better episode, it's a goodbye from Akshay, Som, and me.